Hi there, my name's Stephen Jeffries. I'm one of the technology architects here in the MTC in New York. And what I want to do is I want to spend a little bit of time sharing with you some of the work that we're doing with Windows 10 Anniversary Edition and specifically around security. I want to focus on two particular areas, new capabilities that have been introduced as part of Windows 10 Anniversary Edition, which are Windows Information Protection. Windows Information Protection is about managing data leakage within your organization at the consumable device level with Windows 10 Anniversary Edition. And I also want to have a word with you about Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. Advanced Threat Protection is about extending that threat management cycle so that we can be proactive on the device with the many Windows 10 features around securing the hardware and the capabilities that exist there, but also then doing a post-analytical reporting. So when a breach does happen, because realistically, we now know that it can and it probably has or will happen, that we can do the analysis and discovery so that we can find and deal with that breach. So these are the two things that I want to spend some time talking about. Because from Microsoft's point of view, what we're really trying to do here is provide you with solutions or technologies that you can embed into your solutions that will help secure your digital transformation. We all know digital transformation is the place that most organizations are really starting to see benefit out of these digital tools, but we've got to make sure it's a secure experience. To that end, what we want to be able to do here is make it as transparent as possible for your end users to take advantage of the investments that you're making in technologies, in collaboration tools, in next generation hardware, so that they can work effectively together, but not have to jump through hurdles to be able to leverage these tools in a secure way. We want it to remain transparent and seamless as part of the end user experience. So to that end, where Microsoft has been really focusing is making sure that we can build out for you the best possible platform moving forward. We've, of course, had three key pillars that we've been focusing on. Those three key pillars are about providing the best experience for the user, recreating productivity, and, of course, moving forward with building out the intelligent cloud. So these are three pillars that we're using to build and deliver our experiences. As part of digital transformation, we want you to take advantage of these interconnected ambitions to engage your customers, empower employees, optimize your business, and transform your products and business. What we really want to focus on here within the scope of security is the second component, empowering your employees. How can we empower your employees to take advantage of these tools, let them move forward without being caught having to pre-think everything that they're doing? We want to take advantage of the platform to do this for us. So Windows 10 was really built for the modern world. Significant investments in security, significant investments in working with the best hardware capabilities moving forward, and it's really designed to be a more personal experience, taking advantage of these modern devices. And this is really a key component of this. You need to take advantage of the hardware that you're sitting on top of to be able to then provide these secure services. So you need things like UEFI in place. That way we have a secure startup experience. We need things like a TPM chip so that we can enable Windows Hello, so that we can enable securing your credentials on the device, well, securing your tokens, I should say, on the device, and being able to take advantage of that. Because once we have these baseline components in place, we can then start to take this up and take it forward. Because you know what? We already see these statistics up here. We know the number of network intrusions that are due to compromised user credentials. How many people have their password written down? They shouldn't, but they do. How many people get caught in those password irregularities? 76% of incidents come through these password incidents. So we want to replace the password in something that we're focusing very heavily on. But we also know that folks don't always follow the right rules. They accidentally send sensitive information to folks who shouldn't have it. We've all had that email mistake where you hit the reply all when you really didn't mean to. So how do we separate out the corporate data? And then lastly, what we actually want to do here is that we found 23% of mail recipients will open or go through a phishing experience, or a phishing experience, I should say. Nope. So how do we protect against that? How do we detect the breach once it's occurred, when it's occurring with the individual? You can only be so proactive moving forward. So to focus in this for Windows 10, what we've really done is put significant investment in dealing with protection against what we call these modern security threats. Secure hardware, which we've already touched on, and is something that we've already covered in different sessions. Securing your identities with tools like Windows Hello, being able to make sure that you have the best possible experience authenticating on the device and moving away from that password. So what we want to do now is actually turn and start to have a look at how we secure your data. So to this end, this is where Microsoft has invested in a technology that's called Windows Information Protection. And Windows Information Protection is about managing data leakage inside of an organization. So often we've already seen senior managers, let alone staff, admitting to uploading work files using a personal account. I want to work on this at home, so I email it to my private email address. Absolutely something that you should not do, but we know that people do that. So how do we protect the information where it flows through? Because you know what the consequence of this is? The consequence is that for every record that is leaked out of an organization, it is approximately $240 is the cost of that leak. Do you leak 1 million records? That has significant impact to your organization. So what Windows Information Protection is about doing is saying, okay, how do we make a simple, transparent experience for our end users? Because there are some pretty straightforward needs to be able to enable Windows Information Protection. The first of these is that we need to be able to ensure that we're running on secure hardware. Now, when I say that we're running on secure hardware, what we actually want to make sure is that we have device protection running here, and we also want to make sure that the asset already is secured as well. And to do that, we use BitLocker protection on the local device. That way I can ensure that the information, if the system is stolen or lost, that there's not going to be a compromise that's sitting on top of that. The next part of the equation is to say, how do we separate our data? So what we want to be able to do here is do a level of data separation. Containment and BYOD. What is work data? What is personal data? How do I make sure that I keep these two separate? And to do that, we use enterprise mobility and security. These are new features that we can then bring into play to say, this is where my secure containers are. And the last thing is we want to prevent that unauthorized application from accessing data. I don't want you picking up and taking that client confidential document and sending it to your personal email account, or copying it into your personal OneDrive or into your iCloud. I want to be able to manage protection there. So there are 4 key things that are part of protecting against corporate data leakage. First in it is built into Windows 10 Anniversary Update. It is just built in, it's platform integrated. And what does this mean? It's an integrated user experience. I'm not having to run an extra tool or jump into an extra capability. I just jump straight into there and I have a great user experience. The second point is that it's integrated into our management system. So you can take your existing System Center Configuration Manager. You can continue to use Intune or even third-party management systems to deploy and configure how you want information protection to work within your Windows 10 environment. Now, because we built into the application, we can even protect data in existing applications. We don't have to go through and completely re-engineer all of our line of business systems. We actually have built-in capabilities that will allow us to move forward without you having to do any additional work. So I can protect down at the disk level, but I can also have applications that are enlightened and get me to take and will be able to take advantage of Windows information protection. And lastly, we then have the ability to wipe the data off the device. So the fourth in these key aspects is the ability to remove the information from a data leakage point of view. We want to make sure that end users will have a transparent experience, but it won't affect their personal data. And what I can do is also destroy the certificates that are associated with that. So to that end, what I want to do now is I want to take the opportunity to switch across and we can have a look at some of the capabilities that we see inside of Windows Information Protection. So of course, what you see here is my PC. So I'm sitting here at the desktop, and what I want to do is I want to step back and start at the very beginning, how I actually set up and configure these policies. So as an administrator, I'm going to use Intune in this particular example. What I can see here, of course, is the Intune dashboard, and I'm going to come into here and I want to configure a policy, okay? So I have multiple policy options available to me, and in this particular case, we are actually going to do a configuration policy. So the configuration policy here is I'm going to start in by adding that, and you'll notice I have multiple options here. In this case, I want to select the Windows policy, and let me scroll down to Windows Information Protection, Windows 10 Desktop, Mobile, and later. Now we do need to be Anniversary Edition to be able to take advantage of this now. So I'm going to create a new policy here, and I'm going to call this my marketing policy, because I'm going to apply this to individuals who are in the marketing department. So I can do some targeting. I can, of course, then say this is for the folks in marketing. And then I want to go into here and I want to configure my application rules. Now, I have a couple of different ways that I can do this. First off, when I add an application inside of here, I need to be able to give it a title. I'm actually going to do one here for Word. Okay? So I can actually say allow or whether it's actually exempt. Okay? It's going to be an allowed application. And I've then got multiple options here. As you can see, I can pick a store application, a desktop application. I can also use an app locker policy file. So if I have an app locker policy file that's been generated for an existing application, I can take advantage of that. So as soon as I come into here for a desktop application, what I need to be able to do is get the signing key for that application, and I also need to have in place here the binary name that's actually associated with that. Now, I've actually gone into here and I've prepared that earlier, so what I'm going to do is just drop across to my OneDrive here, and sitting inside of here, I've actually already prepared and got some keys ready to go. So the signing key that I want to be able to use is actually this digital signature that's sitting at the top here. So in this case, I actually can use the same one as, I'm just going to allow access there. So I'm going to use the same signing key as I use with XLXE. So let's just jump back across to here, and there's my publisher signing key. Hey, have a look at that. The actual application is blocking the paste by IT because I've already actually got this running on here. So what we're actually seeing is the result of that action executing. Now, the hard part, of course, here is now I need to remember what this signing key is. The point is, I'd then come into here and I'd want to set the binary name. In this case, we would use all publishers here, all products, and in this case, it would actually be winword.exe that I would drop into place, and I actually want to go with all versions. So as soon as I've done this, I can drop an application into place. The next thing I need to do is specify how I want to be able to work. Notice that I actually have a paste drop share restriction mode. So I'm blocking, I can override so I can allow the user to choose. I can make it silent, or I can turn it off as well. I then need to set my corporate identity, so that could be contoso.com, for instance, or whatever identity I want to use. And then I need to define here the endpoint, the boundary locations that I can work with. So I can go with cloud resources or enterprise network names. I can work with existing proxy servers or internal proxy servers, even IP ranges as well. So if I went, let's say, with my Office 365 here, I might say that I'm going with contoso.sharepoint.com, and I'd also want to cover contoso-my.sharepoint.com to also incorporate OneDrive, for instance. So I define all of my network locations inside of here. I can also upload a data recovery agent certificate. So I can actually define a recovery certificate if I need to allow for recovery of data. You need to create that certificate, and you will then upload the key pair into here. The last thing that I can do here is define how I'm actually going to operate. So these are my additional settings. Show personal option for file ownership, and I'll show you what that means in a moment. Prevent corporate data from being accessed from apps while the device is locked. So it basically means that while the device is locked, somebody can't go and take advantage of information inside of there. To allow Windows search for indexing, Windows information protection icon overlay as well. And of course, if the device is unenrolled, then I want to actually force that the encryption keys are revoked on the device. So if I unenroll that out of security, even if I'm not connected to a network, then I'm going to revoke the keys so you can't get access to that information, even though I may not be network connected. Now, what I actually have here is a completed policy already. So I'm actually just going to re-authenticate here and drop back into the Intune portal. So I've just got my new token back there. And I'm going to open up my existing enterprise sales policy here. So you can see I actually have a number of different applications set up, and you can come in and you can see Word here, and there's my publisher certificate at this time. I've also got universal Windows platform applications such as OneNote in place. So folks can use OneNote with the click of a button on their Surface device as well. I have sitting inside of here Internet Explorer. Why do I want to have IE sitting inside of here? Because of course I want to have a managed experience. Now, I could also add into here, and I really should add into here, Microsoft Edge as well, so that all of my browsers are managed and every browser inside of the organization. There's my identity. I, of course, have my cloud domain sitting in place here, and I'm also using a DRA certificate, which is a function that you'd be well familiar with if you've ever used the encrypted file system with Windows. So now that this is in place, I can then actually come into here and deploy my policy. So I manage the deployment of the policy, and I've set up a group for EDP users, but I could actually have users or devices even, so I can also send it to devices as well that will have this policy enforced on their device. Now you can be domain joined, so this works through domain joining as well, which is why we can use Configuration Manager to actually push this down onto a device. So once this is done and once this is in place, I then publish my policy. Then what will happen is on my local machine here, before I forget, if I jump into my policy here briefly, you'll also notice that I have OneDrive for Business in place. So when using OneDrive for Business for synchronization, for instance, you can see here we're actually protecting the content that's running on our local device. As a matter of fact, if I create a piece of content at any point in time, what will actually happen is the content will flow around with me. Now, let's say I take my Northwind proposal that I have sitting here. I could copy that. And if I wanted to put that into my, let's just remove that from there. If I want to then put that, let's say, into my local document storage, you'll notice here that I have a column here which talks about file ownership. And it's this file ownership that actually says who is the owner of the file. Now, through my policy, I've actually given users the ability to change ownership. So I can try removing that if that is allowed, or I could actually block it as I have in this particular case. I also have that permission being set down into line of business applications. So I have a Word document sitting here, and the Word document's got a little bit of content in here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off and save this document. So when I click on the More Options here, you'll notice that Word is an enlightened application. Now I'm using the latest version of Office 2016, where I could actually turn around and say, hey, this is a work document, still save it into my local drive, and Hello Work will actually get created there and marked appropriately. Now, the last thing that you'll actually see here, of course, is that I'm using OneDrive in Office 365. So inside of my Office 365 subscription, you can see at the top here, I actually have the marker, which is overlaid over here to say that the website is being managed as part of my Windows Information Protection policy. So it's about making it as simple as possible for users to be able to do their work. It's just transparent. It's really simple, very, very quick and easy to set up. So with that, what I want to do now is I'm just going to quickly jump back to the PowerPoint for one moment, and if I can just hit the button there. So when I jump back across to the PowerPoint, what we've actually had a look at is that corporate data leakage component, which is about protecting your information. So we want to make it as simple as possible to ensure that the information inside of the organization is secure. The last component of this, of course, is to ensure that within our organization we can effectively share data as well. So sharing protection is about saying, okay, how do I actually share information within the enterprise? Now, in that particular case, that's where we take advantage of information rights management, or Azure Information Protection. It allows us to protect data in place, share outside of the organization to organizational devices that, let's say, are out of our control, but maintain control across the data. And that's where we take that next step beyond. So that allows us to secure the data. What about the other part of the equation? How do I secure us against threats? What do I do to manage those threats that are coming at? And to that end, what we want to do is spend some time focusing on the last of our pillars, which is securing threats. So securing threats for Microsoft is focused in a couple of areas. It's a new approach that we're taking to breach detection, where we want to go through and say, okay, let's deal with these network intrusions because of compromised user credentials. Let's deal with this accidentally sending information. So the first two of these are pre-breach. We have device protection, identity protection, data protection, and threat resistance built in. So we've done a great job of being able to manage that. The next part of this is where we have things like phishing emails and post-breach. And this is where Windows Defender ATP comes in. Detection, providing tools for investigation, and then lastly, responding as well. Because so many of these things are insidious in nature. So, consider Microsoft's value proposition. We have a challenging network. We've got over 1 million corporate machines just inside of Microsoft alone. We're building new code, new products, new capabilities all of the time. Not to mention all of our labs and hands-on experiences that we make available to folks. We have over 1.2 billion Windows machines that are reporting telemetry back to us, reporting information back to us that we can then incorporate into our knowledge services sitting underneath there as well. And that reporting information is essential to allow us to bring forward this security expertise, to be able to take advantage of building machine learning capabilities to use those unique optics to be able to then look for these patterns and move forward. Now, we realize that one of the most important parts of this is the human fuel, where we have operating system security. Basically, as long as I'm targeting my threat analysts, then what we can actually do here is take the knowledge from these analysts who have great expertise in things like security and exploit techniques, etc., feed them into our knowledge and understanding models so that we can continue to look for emerging patterns because they can see some of those patterns, but also look for emerging threats and quickly surface them up inside of your organization. The core delivery for this is done through Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. Still currently in certain components in preview, but the core functionality is delivered as a function of Windows 10 Anniversary Update. This is behavior-based and cloud-powered. So what do we mean by that? What we're actually looking for is how, excuse me, how we're actually seeing the device behave. So where the device is reaching out and connecting into different systems. If we have a compromise on a low-level system that's then connecting into a different system to try and then escalate security access. So what we're doing is we're looking for those patterns of activity and then pushing those patterns up into our cloud environment so that we can find where those breaches actually occur. We want to then provide you with a timeline. It's great that we have it as a post-analysis, but I need to rewind back over time and see where it all started and be able to trace that timeline out throughout the organization. So it's about being able to get that early understanding as to where this occurred so that I can trace through all of the consequences. And on top of that, I need to understand what's happening. This world is evolving at a rate that is so incredibly fast. So we're rolling up all of the knowledge that we have, all of the information that we have available in this space, and making that knowledge base available to you as part of our experience. So what I want to do is just show you a little tiny bit of Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. So to do that, I'm just going to switch over here. And of course, I've got my PC running. I, of course, have Windows Defender running that's actually keeping a steady view of things. And I've got some protection updates. I can also turn on some additional capabilities there. But you don't see anything different inside of the Defender client. It's up to date. We can see exactly what's going on. And of course, I can look at my history as well. The end user doesn't see a difference here at all. Where this really comes is in the Advanced Threat Protection service. So, to that end, what I want to do here is jump into the service and start off in the dashboard. So as soon as I authenticate and come into here, the first thing you'll see here is a dashboard that's showing me what's going on, what's actually being discovered. I can see here that I have some alerts that are being generated out of ATP where I may actually have an issue that's ongoing that I can drill down into. I can see different machines that are currently at risk and the level of risk that's associated with me. To that end, the first place that I then go and jump into is the alerts. And inside of here, I can actually see all of the new alerts that have been generated for me. And I can even see what machines they're actually associated with. So to start off with here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump across into Liz's laptop. So I want to go and have a look to see what's going on her machine. So I can see here some basic information when we first saw the device and when we last saw the device and what organization we're in. I can see then alerts, and I can now have a look here at a machine timeline as well. So I can see what's actually been going on in this machine. So I can see that full service changed a registry value, friendly name, device interface, Explorer communicated with IP addresses, etc. So I have multiple items that I can have a look at here, and I can actually say, okay, what's actually going on in this device? But I also have notable items or alerts related. So where I've got, let's say, a lateral movement or a suspicious activity. So for instance, I've got a suspicious PowerShell command was found on the machine. So I can come in and drive straight into that alert, and then I can actually see some additional information. For instance, this is the PowerShell command that was executed. Straight away I'm going, that's an interesting PowerShell command that we're actually executing here. And straight away I also have available to me recommendations, so examine the PowerShell command, search for indicators to investigate, etc. So immediately I can go and start to see actually what was going on and go, okay, maybe I want to explore this in a little bit more detail. So I can jump back, of course, to Liz's laptop. And when I come back to Liz's laptop here, I can say, okay, well, maybe I've actually got some other things that are going on. I've got some suspicious activity. So how do we know what suspicious activity is? Well, suspicious activity is where we see things that are moving outside of the normal pattern of our user. Are they jumping to different services? Processes starting up that they've never actually run previously. Now, sometimes it may be a case of, oh, look, lots of people have this because there's a known reason or there's a known activity that I've pushed down. But it's always good to be able to jump in to this suspicious behavior. And so what I can see is some processes that are actually distributing, that are showing suspicious behaviors. So this is all about doing the analysis on the local machine to see how it's actually performing. I can then have a look at some things like an incident graph here to say, okay, what's actually going on? I can have a look even at an alert timeline to see when this actually first started occurring. So it provides me with an interest, a view into how Liz's laptop is actually behaving here. Now, at this point in time, I can, of course, see here where maybe I've actually had a reverse command suspected or something's actually going on inside of here, that maybe that a potential reverse shell has been detected, a particular exploit. So this is where I'm now allowing execution of commands, for instance, from PowerShell from a remote location. I can now start to come down into here and I'm going to drill into this incident graph that you can see here. So what's actually happening here is I'm having a look to see where the possible direction and the possible capabilities are coming from that particular request. So I can actually now start to do further back tracing and view what's going on inside of my organization. Alerts are about seeing what's happening inside of my organization. I also have the ability to pick up additional specific behaviors that I may need to take action on, such as lateral movements, or in this particular incident, I could actually have a particular back door being opened up inside of my organization that I need to take a look at and start to deal with, where I have a laptop that is experiencing a particular issue, and I can actually see the entire timeline that's actually now associated with that device. So I can now start to take immediate action against that and decide how I want to move forward. This is a flash into the Windows Security Center. We can have a look at all of the machines that are sitting inside of the organization, but always resolve back to a dashboard so we can see exactly how we are performing. So what I want to do is just briefly switch back now so we can just close off from here. So Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection is one of those capabilities that will provide you with an amazing ability to have a view of your world moving forward. Combine that with Windows Information Protection so that you can protect data that sits on your devices, and you can start to level the playing field from a security point of view. We think Windows 10 Anniversary Edition is going to deliver you some amazing capabilities. You can go and try those capabilities today, spin up Anniversary Edition, maybe even go with the trial tenant of Intune so you can quickly turn on information protection policies. You can find out more and timelines for when you'll start to see Windows, the Windows Advanced Threat Protection Service becoming available as well. Thank you very much for your time, and we hope that these capabilities will help make your job easier as an IT professional and help you deliver an enabled experience for the digital transformation within your organization and enable your employees and your peers to be able to build and create the next generation of amazing. Thanks very much, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future.